Hello, and welcome to episode 119 of Levels Plus Whenever. I'm not feeling super great today, so I'm going to keep this brief, and that's why you got a big picture of Street Fighter characters, because that's the topic for today. We're going to get into a ranking of Street Fighter characters. So let's just jump right on in, shall we? Welcome to my personal ranking of Street Fighter characters. And this is a second take on this, mainly because I wasn't really happy with the tier maker layout that I had for the first round, as well as just not really analyzing some of this stuff beforehand, just jumping right in. So I found a new list, courtesy of Captain Skeleton. So thank you. I like the general art vibe of this one a lot more, and it doesn't have names, which it didn't need. So let me explain what's going on. So, characters in Street Fighter are super critical for me enjoying that franchise so much. And here they all are, the default Street Fighter characters from 1 all the way up to 6. And this includes Alpha. And should be a really fun ride to get all the way through and put them in these 5 categories, which World Warrior is basically your S tier. Fighting Machine is your A tier. Yeah, that makes sense. Your B tier. Many fighters like you all over the world, C tier, and Kara at the end of the bonus round is basically F. How I'm going to do this is I want to create the defining characters of Street Fighter as the World Warriors. And for those characters, we're going to have ones that you'll probably expect to be up there. The best of the best designs that when I think of Street Fighter, that's who I think of. So even though I don't like Ryu a ton, I think he's fine, but he's not a favorite. He would be up here, and we'll go ahead and just grab him and throw him up here, because if you think of Street Fighter, you think of Ryu. You can't really escape that. Let me grab a few more examples so we can just have like a baseline for everyone. So let's go ahead and grab an F character, Rufus. Rufus is the card at the end of the bonus round. What a terrible character design. A personal favorite that I wouldn't quite put up in S tier, but I love them, is like Makoto. I love her very much. I think she's a fantastic character, but I don't think she's a character people immediately think of when they think of Street Fighter. So like a tier down from that would be like Fei Long. I like Fei Long, I don't love Fei Long, but I think that they did a really good job with the Bruce Lee archetype, and I don't think that he's a bad design in any particular way. I just don't really have a very strong preference for him one way or another. Then, like, C tier is like, yeah, that character is kind of mid. And as much as I kind of hate to put her there, I kind of feel like Laura falls there. I feel like she was not necessary. But I don't think she's a bad design. I feel like they felt like they needed a sexy Brazilian lady, and that's what they came up with, and that was all they really thought about. Street Fighter 6 has much better character design than Street Fighter 5, and we're going to find a lot of Street Fighter 5 characters ending up in that C rank, because I don't think a lot of them really stood out. There will be at least 1 to 2 World Warriors from each game. In fact, what I think I'm going to do is, outside of Street Fighter 2, because there's a couple that are going to have to be up there, we're going to limit it to like 2 per game. Street Fighter 2, I think, will have 5 or 6, because Street Fighter 2 is the defining Street Fighter game for most people. So let's go ahead and knock out those World Warriors. Just get them out of the way. I think Ken is our other Street Fighter 1 rep up there. I think that Chun-Li. I think Guile. I think Zangief. And I think Bison. And then from Super, I think Cammy. And I think Akuma, wherever he went. From Alpha, Alpha's a bit trickier. I would go Sakura. I think if I have to do a second character, it's Dan. Because Dan's kind of become iconic. I will explain all these later. I just want to get the icons up top real fast. For Street Fighter 3, I would argue Urien and probably Yoon are your iconic World Warriors from 3. From 4, that's a tough one. 4 is kind of tricky. But if we're encompassing all of 4, I get to at least throw Jury up there, because she's the easy one. Most of the other Street Fighter 4 characters didn't really last beyond Street Fighter 4 a whole lot. Abel made it into Cross Tekken, and that's it. Crimson Viper made it into Marvel 3, and that's it. El Puente didn't do anything. Gouken stuck in 4. Seth went into 5. Hasn't come back yet. Hakan's stuck in 4. DeCapri is stuck in 4 playable. Poison moved on, so I guess I'll put Poison. Poison is our representative as a World Warrior. The Final Fight character. Street Fighter V is tough. I know Rashid I'm going to put up here because I think he's got the most continuity. But everybody else is really tough to pick a second one from. But I'm going to go with G because I think G had a really strong call. As for 6, I love Kimberly, and I think she's one of the faces, along with Luke, as much as I don't really care for Luke a ton. I think Luke is a World Warrior because he's the face of Street Fighter 6. Let's briefly touch on the World Warriors, why I picked these ones, and then we'll get into more of my personal biases and selecting the remaining tiers, and we'll go in chronological order for the rest of the list. Ryu and Ken from Street Fighter 1, they're in Smash, okay? Ryu is in practically every fighting game crossover Street Fighter's ever had, except for Fatal Fury, which Ken is in. They're the real faces of Street Fighter, and not having them there would be wrong. For Street Fighter 2, we had 4. Chun-Li is the other crossover majority character. She's in practically everything. She's in Marvel, she's in Tatsunoko, she's in Tekken, she's in SNK, she's in Power Rangers, she's in Fatal Fury. She is the woman of Street Fighter, without a question. Strongest woman in the world. Guile, not as prominent, but he is also a very strong Street Fighter 2 representative that is a bit of a face for the series. He has shown up in a lot of the crossovers. He's in Smash as the assist trophy representative for Street Fighter. So I feel like he deserves to be there. Zangief as well, iconic wrestler design, has stood the test of time, has not really evolved a ton over the years because he was just good to start with. And he's been in most of the crossover games outside of Tatsunoko. Alex got that one. I don't think he was in Power Rangers, but he's in a lot of stuff, and I think he's an important character to Street Fighter on the whole. And Bison's your villain, and Bison's the villain of Street Fighter. They've tried others. Akuma's the only one that's really rivaled him in terms of long-term popularity. Jury, I think, is probably third place in that run. We'll get to her. But M. Bison is the villain of Street Fighter, so he's a very prominent face. He's in most of the crossover things that have happened. He's just a good design, a good menacing character, or should I say an evil menacing character. Just really good. Cammy, the second most popular woman in Street Fighter, I would argue. She's been in most crossovers as well. And she's just a really good design that's very distinct from Chun-Li's and pretty much everybody else, that she has multiple clones of her. So that's when you know you kind of nailed it. Akuma's kind of in a similar boat, that he's a clone of sorts for Ryu and Ken, but he's like, what if the Shoto, boy, it took me a second to remember the term. What if the Shoto archetype went full on bad route, dark route, and he's just a sick design. And I would argue that Third Strike Akuma is probably the best, other than maybe CBS 2 Shin Akuma. I feel like with 4, 5, and 6, they kind of experimented a bit too much with trying to make him older, and they didn't quite nail it. 6 is not bad, but 5 was real bad. But he's like the original crossover character. He was an X-Men Children of the Atom. He set the stage for crossovers with other franchises. He's important. Sakura is the alpha character. There is no denying her popularity. She was a huge success in terms of character design and marketing, and just having like a fan that's so enamored with a character that they take on their moveset, even though it is very improvisational, it's still good. It works really well for Sakura. Dan's almost in a similar boat, but he's a joke character. He is the joke character in fighting games. He's deliberately bad, and he's also ripping off SNK. To the point that SNK decided to play along, in a sense, with the rivalry with, what's her name? Yuri? Doing kind of similar stuff. It's really funny. But Dan is a great design in terms of just being a gag. And he's usually the worst character in wherever he appears in. And he's been pretty consistent. He's not in 6 yet, but his legacy is sure there. For Street Fighter 3, a lot of designs that just were all over the place. We can just kind of glance here with Alex. I'll just move him so you can kind of see where I'm at. Through 12 here. All over the map with the designs. I think that Urien and Yoon stand really strong in those designs. Urien is a second fiddle to Gil, and because of that, he has a really distinct evil intention to take over from his brother, because he doesn't think his brother is doing it good enough. And he has a very distinctive moveset in Street Fighter 3. And would be a good versus character if they actually put him in there for real, not as a fan thing. Aegis Reflector has become probably the defining move of Street Fighter 3 in a lot of ways. So I think Urien is a world warrior. I also think Yoon is. Yoon has been a pretty popular character since the original game. He crossed over into Capcom vs. SNK and into the Alpha series. He is a nightmare in Third Strike. He's one of the faces that really stand out. For Street Fighter 4, I don't like the character design that much in 4 or 5. But Juri's the strongest one, and she's the one that has had the most legacy to follow Street Fighter 4, because she was in Tekken, she was in... I'm trying to remember what else she's been in. She was in 5, she's in 6, as a starting character, the only starting character from 4. She's been a couple other things that my brain is just absolutely dumping. But she's easily one of the best modern Street Fighter character designs. Poison, I think, deserves to be a World Warrior because she has overcome so much bigotry in her initial concepting in Final Fight as a trans character. She is the most prominent trans character in video games outside of maybe Birdo from Super Mario. And her being in Street Fighter 4 and Street Fighter 5 and Tekken, along with a cameo in Second Impact and Third Strike for 3, means a lot because they've done quite a bit to heal that initial damaged and bigoted interpretation of what a trans character should be from the 80s. Especially when Ono left. I think Street Fighter V did a lot more to kind of heal those wounds of just negativity and hatred that has just kind of surrounded that concept of poison. And now I think she stands pretty tall. And I would love to see her in 6. I think it would be great to add her into 6 at some point. For Street Fighter V, it's Rashid. He's supposed to be the face, and he's become the face. He's in 6. He's been fan modded into Marvel 3. I think he's a solid design. I like him a lot more in 6 than I do in 5, which is kind of the general feeling I have for a lot of Street Fighter 5. I think he's great. I think that he's a really good design, probably the best one in that game. G is probably the best other new character. I think that he was distinctive. He had a lot of mystery and intrigue about him. Is he Q? Is he connected to Q somehow? And Capcom kind of ran with that. Very strong design. I wouldn't mind seeing him come back into 6. And then for Street Fighter 6, I think Luke is the face of Street Fighter 6. He made his first appearance in 5 with kind of a derpy look, but he looks a lot better in 6. And he's a better character in 6. So I get it. I understand why he's here. I think out of the other 6 characters that have been added, Marisa should probably be considered, but Kimberly is the best Bushin Ryu character that Street Fighter's ever had. And that's such a distinctive archetype that began with Guy, Maki in CBS 2, and then was added into Alpha 3, Zeku in 5. They've never quite made it work until Kimberly, for me personally. And she's a really great character, and a very important character, as she was like the first woman in Street Fighter 6, and she's black. She's got like this just really cool vibe around her. She's important. She's a world warrior, as far as I'm concerned. Before moving into the rest of the list, why do we have exempts and no opinions? Exempt are clone characters that are specifically cloned. So Evil Ryu, I consider Kage a clone of Evil Ryu. Violent Ken, the Shin, Akuma, Onis, and then these 2 Bisons from the EX games. All the EX characters are guests. They came from Fighting Layer first. So they don't get to play in this list. Terry's in the same boat. He's SNK. He's Fatal Fury. He's King of Fighters. He's hanging out in Street Fighter as a guest. He's not a Street Fighter character. And then for the Street Fighter, the movie, the game characters that are in the bottom list, I have no opinion whatsoever about those 5, so I don't want to even talk about them. I'm going to kind of rapid fire this because I don't want to sit here forever talking about every individual character. I will try to keep my thoughts very succinct. Street Fighter 1. I'm going to put Sagat in Fighting Machine. I love Sagat. I think he's a fantastic character. He's the only one that's going to make it this high. That makes sense. These are good characters that I like but don't love. That would be Jin. I really like him, especially in Alpha 3. I am as surprised as anyone else that I'm putting Retsu in this category. It's only because of 6. they did such a great job of bringing him up in 6 and like elevating Retsu. He's not like the world's greatest design, but he's a really friendly character that I like talking to. So I think that's great. Eagle, I'm also going to put here. I like him in CBS too. I like him in Alpha 3 a little bit in the GBA version that I'm familiar with. The rest I'm going to probably just dump here outside of 2 because I don't really have a strong opinion. I hate Adon with a burning passion. He's so annoying in Alpha. And Birdie's such a weird character to think about. He started as a white character. They made him black in Alpha. They tried to joke around and saying, "Oh, I was sick." And then I really dislike what they did with him in 5. He could have been a good character, but I think he's a mistake in a lot of ways. And they've never really fully recovered from that. So, that's my opinion. For Street Fighter 2, we'll include Super in this equation. Vega is a fighting machine. One of my absolute favorite characters of all time. Almost World Warrior status, but just not quite. He hasn't had the crossover appeal as the characters up there. Dalzim can also go here. I think that he's a very iconic character, very unique. He does have some long-standing cultural misunderstandings, like saying yoga in his moveset constantly. But I think that he's a really good design, despite some of the 90s era design philosophies that went into his character. DJ, surprisingly, is going to be here too. I don't think he's great in Street Fighter 2, Super Street Fighter 2. He's okay in Alpha, but 6. It's once again Street Fighter 6 coming to the rescue and making DJ a really good character, finally. So 6 is a redeeming arc for DJ in a lot of ways. I really like what they did with him. E Honda is C rank. It's good that he's there, but he doesn't really stand out a lot for me. Blanca I'll put here. I think that he's a really great character. He's really evolved a lot and gotten a lot of personality over the years, so he's just not monster guy like he was in 2. But I don't think he's quite one of my favorites. Balrog here, I think there's better boxing characters. T-Hawk has never really gotten away from that 90s classification of Native American. And I think there's a couple other characters that are better. Alpha. Guy is a fighting machine for me, even though I think Kimberly is the best Bushin Ryu character. Guy I have always loved in Alpha. I think that he was always really sick in Alpha, even though I'm not great with him. So he's going to be a fighting machine for me. I'm also going to put Rose up there. I love her in Alpha 3. I think she's a lot of fun. Cody, almost entirely off of Alpha 3. I'm going to put here as well. I think that he was really fun. I think that 4 and 5 moved a little bit away from that. But overall, I think that he's great. For our... Yeah, that makes sense. Charlie's a good clone of Guile because he's distinctive. He's not a ripoff. And then with Street Fighter V, one of the more creative decisions they made was bringing him back into like this zombie body mode. And it kind of works. It's one of the few Street Fighter V reinventions that I actually like. So he can be there. Karen can be here. Great rival for Sakura. They used her in 5, but I don't know how effective it was, really. Rainbow Mika can go in this range, too. A good opposing wrestler character. Probably the best one they've done on the whole, at least in my opinion. I'll also put Maki here. I like Maki a lot, but she's only in Alpha 3. And she is distinctive enough from Guy to to stand out with her Tonfa moves and her throws being different and her run being kind of distinctive, but on the whole, she's not as good. Moving on. Unfortunately, the dolls, I kind of like Juri. I don't care that much for Junie. It's more that I like Juri's hair. Sodom is annoying, so he's gonna go down here. Rolento can go in the C rank. I think he's a cool character and a cool design, but he's borderline annoying. But he's also kind of fun to play as. But he's not one of my favorites, so he's gonna go in the middle. And Ingrid, who's also an Alpha 3 Max, I've never played her. I almost could put her in no opinion because I've barely even seen what her playstyle's like. But I will have some idea thanks to Capcom Fighting Collection 2 next year. But I'm just going basically on her design, and it's fine. She's very mid. We'll just put it that way. Street Fighter 3. There's a few that I'm going to put up in my favorite list, and that includes Dudley, who I think is the best boxer. I'll go ahead and slide Makoto over so she can hang out with the appropriate characters. Ibuki, another favorite from Street Fighter 3 for me. And I'm going to go ahead and put Elena up there as well. I think that Elena is a really cool design. Ibuki's a really cool... I love these 4 characters, actually. I'm just going to be honest. These are the 4 characters I love. I love them more than Urien and Yoon, but I think that they're not the faces. Moving on down, let's just get the ones that are car out of the way. 12... kind of running a little bit with what Necro was doing, but even weirder, and it got too weird. I don't think there's anyone else that's like in the trash fire, but there are a lot of mid characters for me. Characters that I like, that would be Q. I like Q. I don't love Q. I think he's kind of cool. Remy's kind of in that boat too. He's another Guile-like. But I think he's kind of neat. I'll put Alex here too. He's supposed to be the face of Street Fighter 3. That really didn't happen. And then I'll put Yang here as well. I like his design more than Yoon's, but he's not the one that got popular. The rest I think can just be dumped in C for me. I think there are just many fighters like them all over the world. Hugo I'm going to put up in B, though, because of freaking Ebo. Watching, I forget his name. I'll put it in text somewhere. Get that far in top 8 and just, like, do some of the wildest things that I've ever seen in Street Fighter. He's a B. I don't really care for him as a character, but seeing somebody who knows what they're doing with him have a grand time, that was fun. Street Fighter 4. We're going to have a fun time with Street Fighter 4 because I don't like the art design for Street Fighter 4 or 5. So these are going to be pretty harsh, honestly. Crimson Viper can go up in B. I don't think she is a favorite, but I like her design. But she hasn't really had a chance to shine since the Marvel 3. So there's not a whole lot more I can say. Hakan, I'm going to put in B as well because very cool concept of an oil wrestler. He's probably the most unique wrestler of them all and deserves to be up here. The Capri can go in C because she's kind of sick, at least with the mask, and she does have a bit of her own thing going on, even though she has the same freaking pigtails as Cammy. I'm also going to stick Seth here because they made Seth non-binary in 5, and that was one of the better decisions they had in 5. If it was just 4, it would be Car, but the rest of these characters I could care less about. I'm sorry to everyone else in Street Fighter 4, but they didn't land. They did not land for me, personally. And let's go ahead and shove Rufus over here so he can hang out with his buddies. Are we ready for Street Fighter V? Because Street Fighter V, I'm going to be really harsh on outside of one character, and that is Akira. From rival schools crossing over and becoming a fighting machine. Akira is the best rival schools character. She's also the best Street Fighter V character. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and scoot our exempt and no contests up out of the way so we can just kind of see a little bit better the rows that we're working with. A little bit easier. There we go. Manat, I'm going to put in B. I think that she's a cool concept, cool character. For C, I'm going to put Zaku. I think he's pretty sick, but just not as sick as I would like. I'll put Lucia here. I think she's fine. Everybody else can go hang out at the car at the end of the bonus round because I hate them. I hate Fang. I hate Nikali. I hate Abigail. I hate Ed. 6 is better. Still don't like it. Colin, I don't like. Falk, I kind of hate. And 11, I don't understand. So yeah, there's a reason why I've never got Street Fighter V. Because I don't like almost everything they did with the new characters. And it really wasn't until the last season that they almost got me with Akira. But I'm still probably never going to pick it up. Here's the good news. Street Fighter VI has great designs. Almost all the way around. I could throw Marissa and JP and Lily and Aki up into Fighting Machine. I love these 4 characters. I think they're fantastic designs, very unique, distinctive, excellent all the way around. JP's the best villain we've had since Akuma. I don't know if G could be considered a villain. I like JP a little bit more than Jury, to be honest, although I like Jury a lot. So yeah, I think that he's great. Lily, I think, is the character that they should have done for T-Hawk back in the day. Culturally sensitive, much more aware, actually from the area. Marisa is just the strong woman archetype brought to life. Phenomenal character. Not being afraid of different women body types. Love that for her. And then Aki is a sinister character. Really well done. What Fang should have been. And that just leaves Jamie and Manon. And I think that Jamie falls into the like, and Manon, based on her alt costumes, can fall here too. I don't really like her default that much, but her alt costumes are fantastic. So I think she can be in the like category. And there you go. That's my list. Port 11 can be kind of cut off. Because I think 11's actually probably my least favorite character in terms of design aesthetic. So there you go. There's the list. That is Street Fighter, boiled down to my personal preferences as well as the defining characters. All right, and that is what I think about the cast of Street Fighter. I've got a couple others down the line that I want to tackle in terms of character rankings. King of Fighters will probably be the next one, and that one's a little bit of a larger project, but that'll come probably next year. Next up will likely be the best of 2024 content. So this will probably be the last whenever that's not awards related this year, just to give myself a break and try to get some books out the door. Thank you so much for joining me today. I will see you for award season. Take care.